All right. So what do we got going on today? All right. So we're gonna have to download the GitHub repo for it's from the course. But let's do a general idea of what DevOps is. All right. So DevOps is where, like I said, it's where development, so like the software engineers, the QA team, the whole software development team, it meets operations. So that's like operations like infrastructure deployment, CI/CD pipeline. We've gone extensively into the CI/CD pipeline, continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous delivery, continuous testing. So it's where they meet, because back in the days, the way deployment would work is that, so the software engineers, they build the software, the QA testers test it, and say, all right, this is ready to deploy. This is where it's located. Now, the operations team, they're going to take the software and then they're going to install it on servers, wherever those servers live, whether they're in the cloud, whether they're on premises, in some data center, they're going to deploy it. Right? Not in that cloud, not in that cloud over there, right? Not, it's like, it's not in our basement. I mean, I guess you could have a server in your basement, but 99% of the time, the server is not in your basement that's running this application, right? Well, there was a server in somebody's basement, but that's a totally different story, right? Totally different story. But the server's not in your basement, but it's a service that could be a data center or something like that. But we're not going to put it in like the cloud here. It is a cloud that is actually, they call it the cloud, but it's actually like the data centers for Amazon, for Google Cloud, for Azure, whoever, and there's like other companies out there as well, but those are the big three. That is the big three, right? And so, you can have it on like an EC2 instance, you can have databases, all that. So it's like you're taking the infrastructure away from having on-prem to having it in a cloud provider. And in the cloud provider, you can scale up easily, because like, let's say you have a server on premises, right? And you're running out of space. So now you have to like shut down the server. You might have to you have downtime, all these different type of things to add more memory, to add more hard drive. But with the cloud technology, you can make these modifications on the fly, and so it saves you on manpower. You can connect to it remotely, things like that. So where DevOps comes in is the whole process of deployment. It gets closer together. And why is that important? Because it allows it fits into your agile practices, where you're able to deploy as part of a story or of a sprint. Some development teams, they will deploy all the features at the end of a sprint. Other software development teams, they will deploy story by story, and that's more in tune with continuous deployment. All right, so they run a series of tests through the CI/CD pipeline, and then if the test passed and everything is good, then they'll just deploy it, merge into master. They'll do the whole deployment thing. But the thing is with that, you need an easier way to deploy. So deployment used to be a whole time thing. Like, okay, we have to deploy at 6 o'clock in the morning and stuff like that. Now you're able to deploy. Whenever you feel like it. Now you got to be careful not to bring every single system down and cancel a bunch of flights. That's a whole different story. But it allows you to be able to deploy and roll back and things like that very easily using GitHub, using different CI/CD tools like Jenkins, like TeamCity, like Circle CI, like Octopus, which we're going to cover all those at some point. And who uses DevOps? Everyone. The software developers, the QA engineers, the team that sets up the DevOps environment for other teams to consume. So I'll give you a quick example, right? The company that I work for, they have a team who is responsible for the infrastructure that we run our software on, but they're not the ones who actually do the deployment. They make it possible. They enable us to be able to deploy the software ourselves. They put that in place so that they don't have to know how every single software development team works. We have tons of software development teams. They're a small team. So they're like, all right, we're going to make all the infrastructure available for you. And you can use all these different things, So that is, and that's a very, very high level overview of DevOps. On Wednesday, we're going to go a lot more in depth to it, but just wanted to give you that to get started, right? So with that being said, we are going to actually download the course repository. Let's see where it is. That's not what I wanted. And for the actual course that I'm going through, if anybody wants to follow along, I will share it in the Patreon, because I'm not going to share it on YouTube, because guess what? They're not paying me any commission to share their course, So as Mitch says, no free lunches. Bruh. So I'm just going to get the repo, and then we will look at the README file and stuff like that. I should open up an ID. I'll figure out which ID I'm going to open it up. Actually, let me see. Let me see if I can do it this way before I do that. Let's go. All right, cool. We can do this like that. Yeah. Let's go here. All right, cool. So we're going to do this, and I'm going to go to, I'm going to try to start off with just I'm going to try to start off with just sharing the terminal. And if that works, then we will be in good shape. So, or I guess I can just share the whole screen. Let's see what happens. Let's go here. And if I need to share this terminal, we'll do that. All right. So let's go to here, and I am going to do gotta clone the repository. And this is why I highly recommend that you learn how to use Git, because it is going to be an essential tool if you are looking to be in a software engineer, in QA, even in cybersecurity to a certain extent. If you want to be in DevOps, like pretty much DevOps moved to code. There's like using Ansible, using Packer. What is Packer? Packer is actually a tool where you can create servers and stuff like that on these different, like you can create images of the instance that you want to launch. So we're going to go through all of that in this course. And I'll give you a quick rundown of what we're going to go through in this course. All right. So let me just clone this repository. And I should have moved it to a different folder, but I'll do that later. CD DevOps. And we're going to so let's look at this screen now. And in this class, they're going to be talking about, let me make this bigger. And Ferris says that he uses GitLab at work. So can you share with us what you use GitLab for at work? So we can get because you're in cybersecurity, and I believe, I don't know which job it is, because you have so many different jobs, but I'm curious to know which job it is that you use GitLab and what do you use it for? So let's see. So the projects that are included in here is Hello World, and this is for Docker, right? Hello World, Java, JavaScript, and Python, currency exchange, and currency conversion. And these are like the different things in this course, like Docker installation. I guess I can show Docker installation. I already have Docker installed, but I'm not going to install it, but I'll show you where to get it installed if you don't have it installed. Very, very important. Yeah. So Alexis, you can download Docker because you're going to definitely need it for the work that we're going to be doing. But so Docker installation, your first Docker use case. So let's just go to Docker website. I'll show you where you get Docker from. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to, so as soon as you get to the homepage, it's going to tell you to download Docker for the computer that you have. I have an Apple Silicon, but if you have a Mac with an Intel chip, if you have a Windows computer, if you have a Linux, download Docker for desktop, and then it's going, after you install it, it's going to look like this. I can actually show Docker on my rural computer. So if we look over here, this is my installation of Docker. I still have Jenkins running. Remember from our Roscoe Jenkins Jr. instance or container that we have running? So that's still running. But yeah, so this is pretty much Docker, containers, images, volume. So, and we're going to get into all of that, right? So just wanted to share that. So let's go back over here. So we're going to be, so eventually we'll be going through, I'm not going to go through all of these because it is on you to do most of it, but I'm going to talk about them. I can talk about these. And then when we do like our concept and overviews, we can break down a little bit more about these things. I even have some videos on this channel. I have a playlist about Docker as well. So definitely check it out because Docker is very, very important. It's like one of the most used things. Like I remember 10 years ago when Docker first started coming out, didn't make much sense. There wasn't much documentation around it. But now it is like everyone is using Docker or Kubernetes, right? So definitely want to check that out. But we have your first Docker use case, important Docker concepts, playing with Docker images, detached mode and logs, images and containers, Docker client and Docker engine. I don't even know what that. Commands for images, commands for containers, system and stats, images for Python. Let's see. And I really want to get into this part right here for the Docker and microservices, because that's going to be really, really big when you're building out software and you're building out infrastructure on how microservices work with one another. Instead of like building this one big software that everyone has to work on, you can have like many different little components of that software. So all of this whole part right here is going to be super duper important. All right. But let's get into over here. And we're gonna go to, so I'm just gonna run through some, actually, what's the best way to do this? Let me think. Let me try something. Let's say we do that. And what if we do that? All right, cool. Let me see. Let's see what we can do here. Okay. All right. So let's start off with a few different of these commands for Docker, right? So, and I'll just go through each one of them and we'll talk about what they do. And they have these comments over here as well. But let's just try them out for ourselves, right? So if anybody's following along, feel free to try them out. Have any questions, let me know. But we have Docker with 2 dashes version. So we're using Docker version 27, and this is the build ID for Docker. And so the next one, it says running Docker. This is their repo, and it's going to say, or their Docker repo from, I guess they have it on Docker Hub. Let's talk about Docker Hub real quick, right? So Docker Hub is where you can store different images of different images of the software that you want to be able to run that's stored in Docker. All right. So if we go, we're going to go through this like step by step. So let's look into these actual repositories that would be inside of Docker so we can have an understanding of what exactly we're looking at. And then we'll break down these commands as well. So let's go to hub.docker.com. And if we search for in28min / hello world dash Python. I don't see that one in particular, but let's just do a search. It's not the one. So if we go to that, nope. I saw. So let's take a look at this one. Let's go here. So hello world Python. So this is the one that we're going to actually get. And there's no details on it, but that's fine. Let's go over. Let me make this a little smaller. So now let's go back to our other screen. And let me make this a little wider. This is wide as it goes. All right. So what happened to... Okay. So here, let's start off trying out this command. All right. So we already did our Docker version. Let's do Docker. And what this is going to do, this is actually going to run a Docker container with a Python Hello World application. So let's say we do Docker run -p 5000. So what does this mean? So this means that on port 5000 on your local machine, it's going to map to port 5000 on the Docker container that's being created, right? And we say in28min / hello -world -python, and then colon. And so then after the colon, you're going to be putting the tag, which if there's nothing that comes after colon, you're just going to look for the latest one. If you put the colon, it's going to look for a tag. So this tag is going to look for 0.0.1.release. And it's probably case sensitive. All right. So now we're going to do enter. So when it's not able to find the image locally, it's going to be searching the Docker Hub unless you specified like a full path to where to look for. Right. So for instance, when we did it using the AWS image that we created for the Poopy Pants app, we put the whole path to AWS. We had to log into AWS for it to be able to download it. But here we did not have that. So it had to download it and pull it in. So now it says that error response from Damien, ports are not available, exposing port 5000. So it looks like we're already using port 5000. So what happens if you're already using port 5000 or whatever port that you're supposed to use, right? So this port is, I don't know what would be using it, but let's say this port is already in use. I think Jenkins might be using it now that I think about it. Let's go
Lunch break. Lunch break.
No, Jenkins is using port 50,000. Anyway, so we'll continue but this is the beautiful part about this, because we just encountered an error, right? So let's say we're just following through the course, and then we're doing exactly what they say, and now we have an error. Well, what do we do? But that's why we're here. That's why on Sunday afternoons, we've been working on Terraform and now we're working on DevOps, because we need to know how to navigate. When we hit a roadblock, how do we figure it out? All right. So when we come back from break, we will dive into this. We'll dive into figuring this out. All right. So that is the next plan. So let's go to full screen. And what do you guys think so far? How do you like what we're working on? We've already done 2 commands. We've got the version of Docker, and the version is pretty much universal in Python. Some of them is 1 hyphen, some of them are 2. And now we're able to pull in a Docker image. However, the ports are not available on our computer to be able to start that container, right? So we'll figure that out when we get back. Let's see if we have anything in the chat, and then we will get to our first breakpoint.